Hey, sports card fans, welcome back to another episode of Two Guys, One Hobby with Don and John. How's it been going, Don?
I'm well, man. Can't complain.
Yeah, your
Been well.
Pirates are in first place.
Yeah, how about that?
My Mets are quickly heading to the cellar of the National League East. Complete opposites from where probably each of us thought the season
Absolutely.
would be starting off, right?
Yeah, and we were chatting beforehand. I'm living in the moment because it's very hard for me to say, okay, when is this going to collapse? And this is all smoke and mirrors. But, you never know.
Yeah.
The guys on the other side of town, our next guest, a fan of that team, is, who would have thought we were the team in Pennsylvania that would be in first place?
Yeah, and this actually marks, episode 5 here. We've now hit the big time, Dawn. I hope you understand. Our guest isn't just any guest.
No.
One, as you mentioned, this makes the first all
I
Pennsylvania
was going to mention
Two
that.
Guys, One Hobby.
You beat it. Me to it. That's right.
Yep. But we have an OG in our midst here on YouTube and the sports card community. He is an inaugural member of the YouTube Sports Card Hall of Fame. We have our first Hall of Famer on as a guest.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, I thought Mike Canadian cards, but
Yeah,
last year was his first year of eligibility. So we have a Hall of Famer in our midst. And I invited him on despite the fact that I think he thinks Mike Schmidt is the greatest third baseman of all time instead of Wade Boggs. I still invited him on, and it is Ray from Philly.
What's going on, Ray?
Hey guys, how you doing?
I thought it was George Brett.
I hear so many people. I hear Nolan Arenado. I hear Brooks Robinson.
Jose Batista.
It's all good.
You can't go wrong with any of those four.
Nah, I mean, they're all great as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely.
Well, it's great having you on, Ray. And as usual, we have our guest pick sort of a topic or an interest or something to discuss. And I know through following your channel, you are, I don't know if you want to call it maybe a big PSA registry guy, but it's definitely something that you do projects on. In terms
you get into that,
player runs.
Refresh why we have the guest pick the topic.
Why?
Because we're too lazy to do it ourselves.
Absolutely. I mean, you think we put some effort into this?
Oh.
I mean, come on. I mean, I sent you the link like
5 minutes
before we're going on air, and so yes, this is not high production value right here. This is no. So yeah, we are very lazy. Have the guest say, "Would you like to come on and talk about whatever you want?" So yeah. I know, Dawn, this is a little foreign territory for you because I know you like to do a lot of SGC slabs, which is fine. But I understand, we'll get to it a little bit later that you have a very unique PSA registry set. Yep. But for Ray, I know again following his channel that you like to do some player runs, and there's a unique set registry that I think a lot of collectors try to work on. And I think I have it right. It's the 300 greatest cards by Mike Payne. Did I get the full?
It's the 300 great baseball cards of the 20th century by Mike Payne. I said that 200 times.
Yeah.
Come on, John. Don't you watch his channel? You don't know that?
Yeah.
No, it's just that every time I see somebody, they're like, "What's that set called again?" Because I've said it over 200 times, so they're like, "Oh my god!" So yeah, now that's a huge set. That's a very popular set.
Yeah, and we could talk about maybe some of the cards that are, because it's unique there in terms of some of the cards that were chosen by Mike, and maybe you can even get into the fact that you interviewed Mike about that registry set. So
I missed that one. I'll have to go back and watch that. That's cool.
Yeah. A couple years ago.
Okay.
So Ray, what do you What do you find interesting or appealing about the PSA registry and being able to do different sets and things like that?
Well, I like everybody, I started collecting in 1979, and I collected raw cards like everybody else from 79 till about 2008. And then I had stopped collecting in '08 for about 7 years. I got back into it in 2015. And when I got back into it, I got back into it from watching a YouTube video. And of course, getting on YouTube just really got me pumped up to want to collect even more again. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had no direction. I had no idea how to collect. Now it was a totally different ball game from when I collected in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s. It was graded cards had taken over since I collected years before that. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. When I got back into it in 2015, I was basically just collecting raw all-star cards, putting them in binders and rookie cards of future possible Hall of Famers and having them in magnetics. Years ago, we used to do screw downs.
Yeah.
And then when I got back into it, that was a no-no.
Oh yeah.
So then I started doing magnetics. And then one day I was at a card show here in Philadelphia, and I was talking to a dealer, and he said, why don't you get involved into a PSA set registry? I'm like, what is that? PSA what? Set registry. And when I heard doing a set, I'm thinking, a 70 top set, 71, like
Right.
I'm thinking sets like that.
700 cards. Yeah.
Exactly. And I had no idea what he was talking about. I went on the website. Now, you don't have to be a member. It's free to anybody. You can just sign in, create a username, password, and just go in the PSA. And then I start seeing these sets that members of the PSA community would request to create. And I didn't know what set I wanted to start with first until I came across Nate Tops 85 401,
Yep.
who mentioned, this book, the 300 Great Cards set. And this was in 2015. And I bought the book off of Amazon, and then I didn't know what I was supposed to do. I had no clue. And I actually called PSA. They said, well, it has to be a PSA graded card, and you have to enter that card into that particular set that you want to do. Fine. Well, one card led to 10, 10 led to 20, 20 led to 40. Then I'm start searching around into other sets. And what I liked about it is that I finally felt like I had focus on and know what I wanted to do instead of just because I believe that when you're collecting, it can get really scary and dangerous if you start doing a little too many different things.
Yep.
Where I like to be a little bit more focused and narrowed down to a few things. I shouldn't say a few things because I have 49 set registries now. Because, like I said, it starts from 1 to 10, but a lot of the cards cross into the other sets as well. So
Yeah.
I felt like I had a little bit more of a focus now, which I really liked. And then there was a friendly competition. You start seeing people that you're meeting on YouTube that are in the same set registry as you. One thing leads to another. You start talking on the phone. You start texting each other. Hey, I picked up this card. I'm this far behind you, or I passed you, and things like that. And it was a friend. It becomes a very friendly competition. And then you see PSA does, awards for having certain things that you've accomplished in your sets. And the awards are like, a membership for a year or merchandise or things like that. And that's what got me hooked on it, was just something that it kept me like, I didn't want to be like a kid in a candy store and just walk all over the place and grab everything. I wanted to feel like that I was more focused. And that's the reason why I got into PSA set registries. I didn't know that SGC or any of the other companies had set registries. I just knew about PSA. And
Really the only one. I mean,
Yeah.
SGCs doesn't really have one.
right.
But you bring up focus, and that's come up with some of our previous guests and just topics and videos on YouTube. Is as a collector, it's important to have Now you can have a wide focus, you can have a very, very narrow focus,
Mhm.
But with just so many cards out there, so many options, whether it's
Right.
vintage or modern or whatever, you no one has unlimited funds. So it's like,
Right.
okay, with whatever funds you, Don, I have, it's we only have so much to spend on cards. So like, what is it? And I think it was the last video, Don, we said about having a squirrel jump across the screen. It's just, it
Or some of these live
inevitably
ads are bad because people just start showing cards and it's like, oh wow,
yeah.
I want that one now.
And I think everyone, no matter how focused you try to be, there's going to be a card or two out there where you go, wow, I'd really like it's okay. It's not what I'm working on right here, but I really want that card. But you don't go down some
Exactly.
other rabbit hole.
Right.
Ray, have you found, and I found this with some of my sets, like I'm very close to finishing the 1950 Bowman Hall of Fame run.
Okay.
And they're not cards that I love. But I'm like, I'm two away. Like, I'm like, man, I'd rather spend the money on something else. But it's the other part of me is like, I'm two away. Like, that's just
exactly.
You know,
it's the completion part of it as well. It's not only acquiring the individual cards, and Don, like you said, maybe the last two aren't really like you're super excited about, but you're two away, and you can say, I finished this. I finished this, and now I can move on to maybe something else. And that satisfaction of completion is, again, I know when I completed my first PSA Registry Set, the Koyastrzemski Topps run, and then I followed it up with his, I guess, the basic run or whatever it is. So I have two completed PSA Registry sets, both Yastrzemski. I was like over the moon of like finally getting that last Yastrzemski. And it was like one of the toughest ones for me to find in the eye appeal that I wanted. And I was like, oh, I finally did it. I finally did. So I can definitely see it. And now I haven't quite decided. I'm dabbling on the next player that I don't.
Yeah, but I found for me, because I wasn't super excited to get those two cards, my focus started going other places.
It's tough.
You know what? Just finish it. Go back to this. Let's get this done and then move on to the next one.
Right. And to piggyback off of what Don is saying, that's why, and I try and tell people when they want to pick a set registry, look at all the cards in the set first. Be sure. It's like getting a tattoo. You're going to have to live with that for the rest of your life, and you better like it.
Right.
Don't get some tattoo of a skull and crossbones when then you're 90 years old. You're like, why did I get a tattoo of a skull and crossbones, or a Hawaiian naked lady or something,
or a Philadelphia tattoo?
Once you start that set, you're in. And so that was the first thing, and I'm glad I liked the 300 set. But over the beginning, especially some of the ones from the more modern era in the 90s, I was just like, man, why is this card in the set? I can't stand this card. There was a few of them like that. Not a lot, thank God. Not a lot.
Washington.
There was, what's that?
Was Herb Washington one of them?
Herb Washington, Kurt Bavacqua.
Yeah.
The bubblegum card. There was just, especially the Bavacqua, I was like, man, I gotta and you're looking at your ranking and you're like, I really don't care if it's a 5 on this card, but then you start looking at your rankings and you're like, well, I really got to get an 8. And then I'm saying, I can't believe I'm spending money on a PSA 8 on a Kurt Bavacqua bubblegum card from a contest he did in '76 with Joe Garagiola.
Right.
I'm like, but it's not that many cards that I don't like in this set. That's why it's very important. For the biggest advice I give to anybody out there is, if they want to get into a set registry, look at the whole set first and make sure that you're going to like at least a majority of them.
Sure.
Because you're not going to like them all.
Right.
That's why player runs are really, really cool, because it's really the same player. And you can follow his whole career from his rookie year to the end. That's why I recently started getting in the player runs, maybe about 2-3 years ago. These other miscellaneous type of sets, 500 home run club, 3,000 hit club, 300 win club, post-war rookie Hall of Fame.
Right.
You got to look at the set and make sure you're going to like the cards before you jump into it. Definitely.
Well, here's a quick. So we talked about the satisfaction of completing a registry set. Liking the cards within that set,
right?
But bringing up the 300 greatest cards by Mike Payne, that what, maybe one person in the whole world may be able to complete because the Honus Wagner's in there.
Yep.
So, and there's some other big ones
3 or 4
as
people
well.
completed.
Yeah. So
Right.
what's the mindset of going into that, trying to do that registry set, knowing that you'll never complete it? So do you have a goal for yourself of,
Yeah.
hey, if I can get to 90%, that's great, and that's where I'm going to stop? So
Yep.
talk about that.
That's a good question, because in the beginning, I would get many, many comments, people asking me questions after I would show a video. You think you're going to finish this set? And I'm like, no.
Right.
I said, I'm not. I said two words, or two cards, T206 Honus Wagner, 52 tops Mickey Mantle. Enough said. I said, no. So that was the first thing that hit me. Once I got to about 80, 90 cards, and I knew those cards were in there,
Right.
but I didn't know what I was doing in the beginning. So I just jumped into this set.
Yeah.
And once I got to about 80, 90 cards, I was like, I can't turn back now, but there's no way I'm going to get all 300 of these cards. And people are like, well, maybe, like, I don't care. I could be 92 years old in a rocking chair, and I'm not going to have all 300 cards at a set. So yeah, you start setting for this particular set, you start setting your own goal. This is something that basically, rather than just trying to finish the set, you're maybe just looking at it from a ranking standpoint, and maybe try and get into the top 5. And that would be at least an objective goal for that particular set. Now, all the other sets are doable. Like, you could say, all right, this player run, or this, 500 home run club, there's only maybe 20 cards in here, 30 cards in here. Still really tough, but doable.
Which Mantle card is in that? Do you know the 500 home run?
For the 500 home run?
Yeah.
Any Mantle card that's PSA?
No, I think for the 500, it's probably his Bowman. I'm on the set registry now. Let's see, 500 home run club.
Because again, if this is 52 tops, well, then that's, but
right.
Is it the rookie cards
This
of
set,
the?
and some of them don't require specific cards, but some of them do.
Oh,
so for this one, they do require, and it is a 51 Bowman Mantle.
Okay, I mean,
rookie.
Yeah, you could get a low grade. I mean, that's something that you could shoot for to get. So that's attainable.
Where are you ranked, Ray, on Mike Payne on the registry?
9th.
And so the number 1 person, what is their percentage of completion?
See, the set registries is people think it's just based on how many cards you have. They have a formula on there where
the grade, right?
Right. They go by the grade and the quantity of how many cards you have, things like that. So on the 300 set, for example, the person that is there's people in here like Mike Baseball Collector has a higher percentage than the people, and he's ranked 5th. The people ranked ahead of him, he has a higher completed percentage than them, but the set rating he has is a 2.82. And there's guys that are number 1 have a 3.50 because they might have some higher graded cards. They might have the same cards, but they have higher graded cards.
Right.
So it's not just about, if you're looking at it from a competitive standpoint, it's not just about just getting the card. You got to now look at the guys that are ahead of you. Well, this guy has a 48 Bowman usual. He has it in a 2. You're going to try and get it in the 2.5.
It's qualities involved as well.
Right. That's why this is a really tough set. I mean, of all the ones that I do, this is definitely more driven and more specific and more detailed. But the guy that's in first place has 72.33% completed. So nobody has 100%.
Okay. So as far as a little bit of the history of Mike Payne, he worked for Beckett, right? Was a writer or something? Could you elaborate a little bit on who Mike Payne is?
Yeah, Mike Payne is an editor for Beckett magazine, and he came out with this book in 1999, and he just did an interpretation of what he felt were for the 20th century the 300 great baseball cards. He's done. I've interviewed him on my channel, and I suggested maybe doing other projects and like doing maybe by the decade. So he did come out with a magazine a few years ago, the Mike Payne Top 100 of the 80s, which is a really fun set to do, totally doable to do.
I was gonna say that's gonna be much more doable.
Yeah, and I like that because people destroy the 80s because it's the junk wax era. It's no value, it's junk and this, that. But I think by him creating that particular set for the 1980s has driven an interest back into that decade now, and maybe even might increase some of the values in some of those cards, like the Strawberries and the Bo Jacksons and Barry Bonds. So I think Set Registries has definitely gotten people interested in cars that they never even knew about, or interested in certain decades that they felt were useless, like the 80s. And now they're like, oh, you know what? I'm going to do this. It's doable. And now people are looking at the 80s. You know, he just did finish the 70s, the top 100 of the 70s. He is going to be doing the 90s from what he told me. And I don't
Where
know
do
what
we
else.
see? Where do we find the 70s? Does he have a website or?
The 70s, I think if you have to go to Beckett's website.
Okay.
And it's the front cover had Hank Aaron on the front, and I should have brought that out, but yeah, I think it might be on Beckett's website. I could find out for you definitely later.
When is the Ray from Philly top 100 cards, the 20th century coming out?
Yeah,
that would be kind of cool. You do a video on that or something.
Yeah,
I've thought about that. You know, I've been very interested in. I've been thinking about this for a few years to do some sort of a book. What I wanted to do, I don't know, but it was definitely baseball card related.
Sure.
You know, I'm friends with Tom Zappola, who's written a lot of great books in the past 10, 12, 15 years. And I've been inspired by being friends with him and talking to him and the books that he's come out with. I was like, you know, this is right up my alley. I said, you know, I don't know what I want to do, but I want to do something.
I think it would be fascinating, and maybe only to us people in the card community.
Yeah.
But I really think this YouTube card community is a beast of its own. And a book on that, to me, would be fascinating. Now, again, you know, my wife's not picking that book up, but a partner would.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? I mean, yeah, when I interviewed Mike Payne and before the show, we were talking about, you know, like some of the cards, why they're in there and things like that. And when I interviewed him, I asked him, I'm like, I got to ask you, why is the Kurt Bavacqua, why is the Oscar Gamble card in there? Really? He just laughed. He's like, hey, that was a big card in that particular year. Everybody was going after that. You got to remember, he's like, certain things happened in certain years. Mark the Bird Fidrich Bird Mania in 1976 was huge. Is he a Hall of Famer? No, not all these guys are Hall of Famers.
Right.
Something iconic happened that year, or something big where that player had a great year. He did, like the 68 Topps Bob Gibson. It's not his rookie card, but that was the year he had that freakish low ERA of like 1.12, which is still a record today. So he's like, that's a magical moment. That's a big year. I'm picking the 68 Topps Bob Gibson. So it was all kind of related on what could have happened that year to that player. And the Bavacqua was a moment in time where he was in that bubblegum blowing contest.
So they're not necessarily favorite 300 cards. Just, I mean, some obviously are, but others that he felt had meaning to that period or that year.
Right.
The way that Kurt Bavacqua is one of his 300 favorite baseball cards.
Yeah.
I have a question on one. Maybe you can look it up, Ray. Why is the 79 Paul Molitor? I'm trying to think what could be special about. I mean, the 79 Nolan Ryan's in there. You know, Ozzie Smith rookie. But I was looking through I just happened to pull. I don't know where I would
pull some of mine
rank, because not all of mine are PSA, but I have 44 of the 300.
Yeah, 44.
And I have 44, and I was just looking. I'm like, 79 Topps Paul Molitor.
Yeah.
And I know, Ray, in the book, there's like a little blurb for each card as to what it is. So what's special about the Paul Molitor?
Before I even looked it up, I thought it was because of the condition, because of the centering, and I'm looking at the blurb in there, and it's exactly because of that. His rookie card is the year before, but this was his first card by himself solo.
Yeah,
And the
yeah, that
card
is.
is very, very. This card took me 3 years to find.
Really?
Believe it or not, a 79 Molitor and a PSA 9 because I wanted it in a high grade. Why I don't know, because it
Mine's
really
in an
doesn't
8,
matter.
but
Yeah,
the centering's pretty good on it.
I mean, I can
How
read
many
the
do you
blurb
have,
here.
Ray?
What's that?
How many do you have of the set?
209.
And what did you say you had, John? 40.
44.
Okay. And I pulled mine out. I have 69, but mine are in SGC, PSA. I'm all over the place, so I would never be on it. But I'm like, well, I got 69 of these without even trying to do the run.
Yeah, a lot of people tell me that. Friends of mine are telling me they're looking at the book. They're like, I think I have 100 of these already, and I'm like, yeah. You probably do.
Great cards.
Because they're not really rares. These aren't like the 300 rarest cards, you know.
No,
these are very
pretty mainstream. I mean, he's got the 54 Musial Red Heart, and I think he's got the Wilson Franks Campanella, but they're mostly tops, Bowman, some Tipo 6s. You know, they're not, as Rick would say, oddball cards or
even the pre-war stuff. You know, it's Play Ball and Galaxy.
Yeah, right.
You know, T206, T205s, T207, kind of like your common sets.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, to get back to John on that, the Molitor, it was because of the centering, John. That card took me almost 3 years to find in a 9. It very rarely has a very low pop in a 9. And that was it, is the centering. And that second year, there's certain cards like the 71 Munson, his second year card, is worth just as much, if not more, in certain grades than the rookie.
Oh, yeah.
Probably one of the rare cases, but you're right.
The 76 George Brett was another second year card, and the 79 Paul Molitor.
I noticed that,
is another Brett second year very card. Hard to find centered, and there may not even be a 10 on that card if I'm
right.
I mean,
but those cards.
Well, I went on the cheap, but cutting obviously enough of the registry. Mine's in a 6, but not too bad for a 6 in terms of the centering. But
mine's a 7, but it's SGC, so I'm out.
Those 3 cards from the 70s, the 71 Munson, 76 Brett, and 79 Molitor, those 3 second year cards are like neck and neck with their own rookie card because of the condition with black border. The 76 set, George Brett's card is on the bottom corner of the page. So every one of them are off centered, and the Molitor is just off center all the time. So
I didn't realize that about the Molitor. That's got to be, I would guess, with the Ozzie Smith rookie too.
Yeah.
That's a very
Ozzie Smith rookie. It's amazing some of the jumps in grades from 8 to a 9. Like in 8's a couple $100, and then in 9's in the thousands. It's just amazing with one grade on some of these cards. So yeah.
So what are some of the player runs that you've completed, and what player are you currently working on?
How I got started
the answer to the second one, but go ahead.
How I got started on the player runs, I really like when I first started doing set registries. I started with the 300 grade set, then I went into the post-war rookie Hall of Fame set, and I was looking for other miscellaneous type sets, and then I found the 50 greatest sluggers, 500 home run club, those kinds of group sets, and I never even thought about player runs, and then I started seeing a couple of YouTubers out there that were doing player runs, because some of these miscellaneous group sets are really, really expensive, like the 300 or the post-war rookie Hall of Fame, because every card in that set is a big card. It's a rookie Hall of Famer, or it's a monumental card from the 300 set. Whereas the player run, you know, their first 5 years is something that is going to be a little bit of expensive. And then after that, you can get a break. And then at the same time, you get to see that player's career from the beginning to the end, finish a set that's not going to kill you financially or kill you like taking years to do or anything like that. So the first guy I did without even really knowing I was doing it, I wanted to do the Mike Schmidt set registry. Now, I can get into like there's different kinds of player run sets. PSA has a PSA basic tops set. a PSA basic set, and a master set. And a basic top set is just that. It's all that player's tops cards. And then the basic set is all their base cards. So it could be tops, Donners, Fleer, Bowman, Score, Upper Deck. The master set is everything, could be RBI leaders, all-star cards.
Right.
And those are, it could be the most minuscule player out there. A master set could have 900 cards in there because it's anything. It could be Squirt, it could be RC Cola,
right.
It could be anything that they were in. So I stay away from the master sets because I'm like, that'll take me 2 lifetimes. So, which I started with Schmidt, and then when I was thinking about doing player runs, I'm like, I already have Schmidt, and player runs I think are a lot of fun to do, easier to do than these group miscellaneous sets, much easier to do. You get to see the whole player's career and have fun with it at the same time. We're talking like first 5-6 years of that player's career is going to be the toughest, and then after that you get a decent break and you can get some higher graded cards. So right now I'm working on Willie McCovey. I finished Yastrzemski. I've done Jim Palmer. I've done Steve Carlton, Reggie Jackson.
What I love about your runs, like I think you did Johnny Bench, right?
Yeah, I did Schmidt, Carlton, Bench, Palmer, Marichal, Reggie Jackson, Carl Yastrzemski was the last one I finished, and now I'm on McCovey.
So what I like about your sets, Ray and I are the same age, and I know, John, you're not far behind us, but those are all guys I grew up watching. Yeah. Even though they have cards in the 60s, or many of them do, but they were prominent in the 70s.
And if I could give a piece of advice on doing a PSA basic tops run, I try and find players that their last cards don't really get too much into the 90s and 2000s.
Because then you need 9,000.
You can have 10 different cards. Like I wanted to do a George Brett or a Robin Yount run, but their careers didn't end until the 90s. And I'm like, man, just in 91, he has like 12 cards. In 92, he had 13. So I'm trying to find players that started before Brett, say from 73, then 72, 71. So I'm looking at all the rookies from 73, 72, 71, all the way back to the 50s. Because then I know if they start in those years, they're going to end before they get into the 90s.
Who are some of the guys on your list after McCovey that you got on? Who are some of the guys you have on deck that you want to?
On my list, yeah. After that, I have Rod Carew on my list because he's 67 to 87. To me, that's good.
Yeah.
After Carew, I'm looking at Joe Morgan. He would be 65 to 85. Then I have Lou Brock, and then I'm getting in the 50s. I'm going to do the Frank Robinson run. So that's 57 to, I think, 75.
Yes. Yeah.
Brooks Robinson.
He goes 57, 76. So.
Right. Ernie Banks would be 54 to 71. And maybe K-Line, Banks will be tough because his 50 cards will be tough from 54 to 59. But then once you get into the 60s.
Like that one?
Yeah. Awesome. I love that card, man.
Yeah. I pulled that out because that's one of my 300. I'm glad you're not doing Willie Stargell because that's you're not going to be competing with me to buy his card.
Yeah.
He's on my list too as well. I'm pretty much getting any rookie Hall of Famer that came out.
He got into the late 80s, so he might have a few years there. Or early 80s. I mean, not the late 80s.
But I think the player runs, if you don't want to get into these monster, post-war rookie Hall of Fame 300 set, and you want to get into a set registry, I recommend a player run. A Topps player run is a lot of fun. And you're not killing yourself. That's the best point.
You're not just doing the Topps cards for these guys?
Yeah, just the Topps because.
Well, you said Robin Yount and George Brett have like 13 cards.
Yeah, and I'm not doing those guys because.
If you're just doing Topps, I guess I'm confused.
I could do that. I could just do the Topps card. But here's the thing: not too many people graded the early '90s cards for those guys. Like I already looked at the George Brett and Robin Yount set registry for 1990 for sale, none. 91, none.
Right.
92, there was one.
Oh, yeah.
93.
You're almost gonna have to buy them raw and grade them yourself.
There's not a lot of cards graded in the early 90s. So you get into the 80s and 70s, you're loaded. So it's a lot
Yeah,
easier.
I think
I
I
thought
looked
about
up.
just doing the tops for Brett and Yount, but there's a not a lot for sale when it comes to when they got into the late 80s, early 90s, especially the 90s.
Yeah, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
I think I looked up Brett's. Was his last year 93 tops or something like that?
2
94
or
or something?
3, yeah, 92
Yeah,
or 3.
and I just I looked it up because I don't know what made me think. I'm like, oh wait, maybe I'll get his last year card or whatever.
Hard to
I
find.
either couldn't find it, or when I
Yeah,
did, I'm like, they want how much for like an 8 or something? I
yeah,
was like what?
yeah,
And I was like, yeah, okay, I'm moving on to something else.
yeah. And plus, I mean, it's no offense to Yount and Brett. I wanted to do a little bit, bigger players. Like, I
Right.
would like to do the Frank Robinson and the K line, things like that, because you don't have to worry about a Donruss, a Fleer, a Bowman, a Score, an Upper Deck, man. I'm just going. That Red Jackson, or I'm sorry, Al Kaline has 54 to 74 tops and done. Frank
Yep.
Robinson, 57 to 75, done. You don't have to
Yep.
worry about it. You don't have to worry about not finding them. There's a lot out there. But yeah, when I was looking at 74 would be Winfield. I was looking at Winfield, Brett, Yount, Eckersley, Dawson,
Mhm.
Murray. They have loads of cards in the late 90s, and there's no pop.
Yeah.
You try and
Oh,
find like a
yeah.
98 Pop Eddie Murray. You're not going to find it.
Yeah. So Don, now since you have your own PSA player run registry that
You.
ranks, I understand, pretty high on that registry list. So you maybe want to talk about that one?
Yeah, I happen to be number 1 on this set, and I didn't even exist. I had to. I don't know what I did back in the day. I guess I emailed them, or it was around 07 or 08, and I had to wait. I think it was like a year and a half. And I'm number 1 on the master stand, and that is the PSA Phil Garner.
Scrap iron.
So
Mm-hmm.
for some reason, well, I know I did it. He was one of my favorite players back in the day. I've got all these useless Phil Garner cards. And there were some that I sent in. There's only pop 1 because back then I would send them in. And so I am number 1 on the Phil Garner registry. So
how many cards are in the player run?
I don't know. I haven't looked at it in so long. I think they're actually on one of them is one other guy because he's probably doing like the 75. His rookie is with Keith Hernandez, the 75.
I was just about to say,
Okay.
so does
So
that mean
maybe someone else was doing another set? They threw it on there. So there's like one guy's got like 2 cards on it or something. Ridiculous. But so I'm not a PSA registry guy per se, but I find it very useful because I collect Hall of Famers and I like certain years and sets. And it's a great resource to go on there, and because they've already got all the information for you.
Mm-hmm.
You can say, okay, here's all the guys in the set you need. And some, I don't collect, like for the 54 run, I didn't collect Tommy Lasorda because he wasn't a player that made the Hall of Fame. He was a manager. It's just my personal preference.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So there'll be added cards, but I can at least say, okay, here's who I need for this set. And it's kind of nice. It's all right there. And there's everything. If you, like you said, if you want to do the, all-time base stealers, a 300 club, or so I do like it for that reason, even though I don't really actively participate in it. I still find it as a great resource.
And
yeah, I used it for my initial checklist when I said, hey, I want to get into vintage. I want to collect Hall of Famers. So rather than try to, I don't know, go through some checklist and say, okay, well, who are the Hall of Famers and stuff. I went to the PSA registry. They had the checklist. I just cut and paste into Excel, and now I have my list. And of course, I've added to it. I added Munson and Evans and Pete Rose because in my mind, hey, those are Hall of Fame caliber players. Blah blah blah. But
photos or scans of the cards on there. So not everyone does, but some guys have all the cards on there, and it's kind of cool. With I'm just gonna throw a set out. I don't know, the 33 Gaudi Hall of Famers, and I don't I see the list, but maybe I don't know what they all look like, and it's kind of cool if someone has them all, and to see them. I mean, I have the books that have them all, but I think it's fun.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing also about doing these set registries. It gets people looking at cards that they never thought they would be looking at, and I'm not talking about Bavacqua and Washington, but I'm talking about great cards. Like
I'm going to show some of mine because we've got to show cards on the show.
Yeah, like the 600 career stolen base set. There's guys on that set that I never thought I would be interested in looking at, but I was like, wow, this guy has 600 career stolen bases. That's like the 500 home run club. So there's a lot of sets that get you interested. Yeah.
Oh, I'm done. You can take me off.
Okay.
I mean, I have more here. I didn't know. So, Ray, what is the oldest card you have from the Mike Payne set?
I have the Tinker Evers to Chance T205.
Okay.
They're all T205 gold border.
Yeah. What about you, John?
The 50 Bowman Yogi Berra.
Okay. Mine's the Mathewson.
Love the green board. Love the.
See, I was hoping that the would be the T206 Mathewson dark cap, but no, it's the T205 portrait. I guess that's the. Well, no, there is a T206 Christy. It says T206 Christy Mathewson portrait, but that's the 205, isn't it?
Oh, you're right. Okay, yeah. I have 68 cards, not 69. Oh well. Oh, good cards as well.
But so I think that the Christy Mathewson portrait, though, that's
thing in the back. I don't know what those cards are. The Mathewson that's horizontal and it's sort of the sunset in the back.
Oh, yeah.
I love that.
Oh, that one.
Like
yeah.
This one. But
I know that one. Yeah. Also, the what's also cool is there's this one particular set registry, the PSA Future Hall of Fame set registry. This creates a huge discussion amongst collectors because these are cards into this particular set, Future Hall of Fame set registry, that collectors or PSA members, whatever, are speculating that these guys could get into the Hall of Fame. And if they do get in the Hall of Fame, then their card moves from the PSA Future Hall of Fame set registry to the PSA post-war.
So you could lose rankings because you might have a very high grade of a card, and he makes the Hall of Fame, and now you go down.
You go down on the Hall of Fame set registry, and you go up on the post-war.
Right.
But what's cool about this Future Hall of Fame set registry, it gives you an idea of who to buy that has a shot at the Hall of Fame, because we're always trying to speculate, who should I get as a quote unquote investment, getting a rookie card of a guy that's currently playing, or he played 10, 20 years ago, 40 years ago, that, this guy has a hot shot at the Hall of Fame. Maybe I should get him before he gets in. And this Future Hall of Fame set registry is a really good tool.
Yeah.
Really, to go in there and say, hey, there's a 74 tops Dave Parker rookie in there. There's a 78 tops Dale Murphy rookie in there.
It's like your video series you do of guys that you think have potential.
Yeah, that have a chance to get into the Hall of Fame, and it gets people thinking about, jump on these guys, because there could be a Harold Baines out there. There could be somebody out there that you don't know is going to get in. And, I follow
put that list together.
What's that?
Who put that list together? Because I think as Dawn, as you did, you submitted to PSA, hey, I want to create this registry set, and either Mike Payne or someone on his behalf said, hey, I want to create this registry of these 300 cards. Who put that list together? And then, as you said, if someone does make it, it moves to a different set registry. Is there a card that comes in and replaces it? And who decides what? So who's the gatekeeper of the cards that are on that
Right.
set registry?
How they used to do it, and they changed it very, very recently. They just added 7 new cards, and the 7 new cards they just added to the future Hall of Fame set registry are guys that are currently playing, like Aaron Judge, Nolan Arenado, Manny Machado, Mookie Betts, just to name 4 of them right there. But how they used to do it was you can go into to PSA's website and send an email and request for a card to be added to that set. So, but of course, you have to have the card graded and you have to put that cert number in and say, I want to request this 78 Topps Dale Murphy to be added to the future Hall of Fame set registry. Now, back then, they didn't do it right away. They would just take your information down. And after a couple of months of getting all these people's requests, they would have enough requests for about 10 different cards. They send out a group email to all PSA members and had you vote.
Oh, really?
Oh, wow.
So I would get an email 2-3 times a year, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And it was set up where you just clicked on as many cards as you wanted. And of course, I would select all of them. I would just go like this because I wanted to, I just wanted to get them all. So, for example, one year they asked if you wanted to add the 70 Topps Munson to the future Hall of Fame, and you can vote yes or no. And then they would get back to you and say, all right, of the 10 cards that we sent out in the most recent, voting ballot, these 3 got selected by you, the members. So we're adding these 3 cards to the future Hall of Fame set registry. Now that's how they used to do it. Yeah. I noticed 7 cards were added recently. I'm like, hey, I called them up. It's like, hey, I didn't get an email. You guys added 7 cards to the future Hall of Fame set. Oh, we don't do that now. We changed it this year. We have somebody here now that's in charge of the future Hall of Fame registry, and it's just analyzing it himself, which I don't like.
It's one guy.
One guy that's going to make his interpretation of what he feels should be on that future Hall of Fame set registry. When I still really look forward to getting these emails.
Don Mossy would be on that list if it was up to the guy. He's not got coverage.
Yeah, man, big ears. Yeah, but I like the future Hall of Fame set registry because it gets you thinking about certain players that might have a shot of getting in the Hall of Fame, and you can get a jump start on them before they actually might get in.
Well, I think that's happened a lot with I know Mike Baseball Collector, when Tony Oliva and Jim Cott, like, oh geez, that maybe not out of left field, but it's like, oh geez, okay, now if I'm doing not necessarily player run, but getting all the Hall of Famers of a certain, like, I know I'd have my 1978 Topps Hall of Fame set registry complete if it weren't for Jim Cott. And all the Jim Cotts I've seen showing up for auction are PSA 9s, and they all sell like over $175 for a PSA 9. I'm like, even though it's 78 and that's my set, I would love an 8, but who knows what even an 8 would cost me. Well, I'm like, oh my God, I have one card. That's the only card I need.
The same thing happened to me with the 76 Topps.
Right.
I had it finished, and I was convinced that Dick Allen was getting in. Bought a graded card of it before he got in. I was like, he's a lock. And I know Ray the same way.
Tell me about it.
I had to get an Oliva, and again, here's my Jim Cott that's not graded. I can't find one that's graded that's a reasonable price, and I might send this one in someday. But it was like, I didn't think he was getting in. I was like, I got to go find a Jim Cott. And, I still think Dick Williams will eventually get in, so I have the card. But I was 100% convinced he was getting in that year. Went out and got the card before he got in because it was cheaper, and he didn't.
Yeah. So I mean, it's like you said with with that future Hall of Fame set, if you can time it right and actually it works out, then if you have Parker's 74
correct
is his rookie.
Yes.
So if you have the run of 74s but don't have the Parker, maybe it makes sense to just add the.
But does that include like Shoeless Joe and Pete Rose and Bonds and Clemens? Like,
yeah,
as a potentially, even though they're not eligible. And when I say I mean Rose and Shoeless Joe, but they're on there.
Yeah, they're on the list. There's 45 cards in the future Hall of Fame set registry. I can real quick, just to give you an idea, the 63 tops Pete Rose is in there. The 64 tops Dick Allen rookies in there.
So it's the rookie.
It's the rookie, right? Okay. Because if they get in, they would go into the post-war rookie Hall of Fame set registry. So Parker's rookie, Dale Murphy, Lou Whitaker's rookie. That right there, people know Whitaker's climbing up the ladder.
Yeah,
there's a good example right there to say, here's a guy that I should be buying because he's on the future Hall of Fame set registry. A lot of people thinking he's got a shot. He wouldn't be on the set registry if they didn't. And now's the time to get him. Roger Clemens' Fleer Update rookies on there. The 85 tops Mark McGwire. Yeah, okay, that has no shot. But the Fleer Update Barry Bonds, the Donruss Kurt Schilling, the Gary Sheffield, Manny Ramirez, Jeff Kent, Todd Helton, Andrew Jones, Billy Wagner.
Yeah, Billy Wagner.
Now, Wagner is climbing up the ladder as well. Carlos Beltran, Adrian Beltre. Now, the cards they just added recently was Joe Mauer. So now that's got me thinking, wow, a lot of people think Mauer's going to make it. So now I'm looking at Mauer.
There. Each everybody on there.
Pujols,
Buster Cabrera.
Yep. Altuve, Mike Trout, Freddie Freeman, Buster Posey, Verlander.
O'Neill Cruz, right?
O'Neill Cruz. Did you mean Jose Cruz? No. Hey, you never know, man.
A few more years. Yeah, he might.
I'm surprised that, like, say, Mattingly, Munson. I have my favorite is Dwight Evans, but that some of those, and maybe it's because the way the Hall of Fame works now, and I know Ray, you're more into it than I am, on all these now different committees, era committees, and how they've recently changed how often they vote or who or whatever. But I think Mattingly was on the list, and I don't think he did that well, or
no,
maybe yeah. So
he didn't.
Maybe have some of those cards maybe dropped off.
No, that's the thing. I mean, they have never taken a card off of the future Hall of Fame set registry. Okay. I don't know why. I think
at some point,
but Rose is not. Is Rose on that list or not?
Yeah, he's on the list.
Oh, he is. Okay, so Rose is on the list, but Dwight Evans isn't?
No. Now, I can go in there and request it. Okay. I have a graded Dwight Evans rookie. I go in, I put my cert number in, and I go to request a card for a set, and then I select that set, and then they get back to me, and then when they get back to me, say, it's been approved, it's now in the set. Like where I told you before, they would send out a vote to everybody and you voted on, which was a lot more fun. Yeah. Like you felt like you were in the Hall of Fame committee.
Yeah.
It was cool.
Yeah.
Well, let's take just a pause here, and then maybe we can do some wrapping up here of PSA registries. I have a trivia question. Now, Don, this is sort of directed to you because it has to do with the Pirates.
Okay.
It is a tough one, but Ray, feel if you know this, because you know it involves Hall of Famers. So obviously, Ray, if you know this, but to me, this seems like a very difficult question. But one or two of you may get this right away. All right, the 1927 Pirates may be best remembered for being swept by the Yankees in the World Series. However, the Pirates had two Hall of Fame players on their World Series roster who didn't play a single game in the series.
Ooh,
so who were those two bench warmer future Hall of Famers on the 1927 Pirates that didn't play in any of the four games?
Players, not managers or coaches or
no, they were players.
Lloyd Wainer?
Nope.
See, the other guys I'm thinking of would have played. Did they make the Hall of Fame as a Pirate?
I'm not 100% sure. To be honest with you, I don't know.
Archie Vaughn?
Nope.
I was going to say Archie Vaughn.
Paul Wainer?
Nope.
Pie Trainer? Those guys would all.
Wow.
I'm running out of players. Hannes Wagner would not been there.
No.
One of them, I think, went on to be a coach, but wasn't a coach on the 27 Pirates. I think he was a coach.
Trying to think of former Pirates.
No, he's not in the Hall of Fame.
Luke Appling.
He didn't play for the Pirates.
All right. I'll tell you one, and this is the one who I think eventually became a manager. Joe Cronin.
Wow.
I didn't know he was with the Pirates.
Yeah, he was on. And Cronin was 20 years old and in the second year of his Hall of Fame career.
You know, when Mangini watches this, he's going to be screaming at the thing.
Oh, yeah. Joe Cronin. There's Joe Cronin. All right. So Joe Cronin was the first one. So he was, again, very just starting off in his career. So maybe he only played a few years with the Pirates and moved on. I don't know Joe Cronin's career that well. But the second one is Kiki Kyler. Is that how you pronounce it? He was controversially benched for the World Series. It doesn't say why he was benched, but must have done something that the coach said, all right, you're not playing. So Kiki, is that how you pronounce it? Kyler?
No, Kyler's right, but the first name I always thought was Kiki, but it's actually Kai.
Oh, really? Kai Kyler. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Kai Kyler. And
I was corrected on that a few years ago. And I thought the person that was telling me that was joking. And then I watched the documentaries and I'm like, Kai? Really? Yeah, it's Kai.
Wow.
Dang, I was on a roll on your trivia. You got me this week.
That was tough as nails.
It was. I thought for sure.
I had a feeling, but I saw it was Pirates. I had a whole list of potential different questions. I'm like, okay, well, this will be a Pirates one. I'll give it to Dawn. But I did preface it and said I thought it was going to be a really tough one. So
it was.
But you thought there were 1959 Bowman last week. So your definition of tough is a little sketchy there.
59 Bowman, 2059 Bowman. It's yes.
So you guys got any of the cards to show from the Mike Payne set or any of your other ones in front of you? Or
sure. I'll show off a couple of mine here. I'll just pick some. Where am I here? I'll just pick some random ones. I got the 51 Bowman Spawn, and let's see here. Let's see. I'm going to try to find ones, Dawn, that you may not. Well, I don't know. That's going to be hard.
No, not hard.
53 Topps Yogi Berra.
Oh.
Let's see here. Well, you mentioned it, Ray, that you're going to eventually work on the Frank Robinson run.
Robinson set, yeah.
That card
to that. Just pick a couple others here. You mentioned completing the Jim Palmer run. I may start working on that one. I have a decent number that I have. I maybe halfway, halfway up to like 1980. Then I'd have to get as early 80s. Let's see here. One of my favorites. Love that Tom Seaver. And let's see here. We'll end with a Red Sox here, the Carlton Fisk.
There you go.
All right. So let me get rid of my mug here. There we go. All right. So, Ray, what did you pull out some maybe from that registry that may be some unique that Don and I can drool over?
This is the 59 Fleer. Ted signs for 59. I just got this year.
So why do you consider that one of the 300 greatest?
Because of who's actually in the picture, Bucky Harris.
Gotcha.
who had a contract exclusively with Topps
Okay.
and wasn't really supposed to be on this card, was not supposed to be on that card, and they pulled it. So it's kind of a rare one. This is another pickup from this year, the Maris rookie.
I was on that one.
Nice.
Great card, Ray.
It's centered, which is tough. I was thrilled to get that centered. The grade's fine by me. 58 Topps batting foes of Mantle and Aaron. It's a cool card.
Oh, I love that one. I was actually looking at that card, maybe in like a 2 or 3. Passed on it to get something else.
Well, I'm back up to 69. I forgot. I have that one. So
all right, you're back up to 69. All right.
Oh, that's a great one too.
Oh, yeah.
Power hitters. Brooks Robinson, rookie.
Now, is the 53? I noticed those two, the Mantle and the Aaron, and then the Mantle and Berra. Is the 53 Bowman color? Is that in that as well?
I know which one you're talking about. Yeah, that's in there too. That has Mantle, Bauer, Berra.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's in there too.
Yeah.
There's an interesting card of Roy Campanella, symbol of courage, 59.
Like that card. I guess it's depressing to me. I don't know.
Yeah. I just
That was one card that I kind of questioned as to why it was in there as well, but it is.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, the 59 Fleer Williams, this was something that it never really came up for auction that very often. So I found this raw at my LCS back in January, and I submitted it to PSA. Didn't care what kind of grade it was going to get, because I just wanted a graded version of it to put into the set registry.
Yeah.
It has a crease in the middle. You can't see it here, but that was the reason why I got a 1.5. But
it checks it off on the.
It checks it off.
On a side note, I've looked at some of those Fleer Ted Williams, and there are some gorgeous shots and images of Ted, and I don't think in maybe like a mid grade or something like that, I don't think they would be that expensive. And so I've thought about, again, not going down the rabbit hole of trying to complete the set, obviously, especially with that one card there that's way expensive. And some of them I've seen, I'm like, okay, it's an image of him, but there's one or two that's like a portrait that's gorgeous, and then some of them with him swinging. There's one. Is it like a 3-picture or 4-picture of his swing, like from start to finish or something? There's just some really, really nice cards in that set.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I may pick up someday.
There is. Yeah, and it's not a tough set to finish, with the exception of the one card. But yeah, the rest of them are fairly reasonable to get. And
but there's over 100. Are there over 100 cards in the
set? 80.
Oh, 80. Okay.
I didn't realize there were that many in
it. Yeah. The set includes 80 standard size cards.
The 54 Bowman Ted Williams shouldn't have been in that one either.
Right, so that's in the 300 set.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have that one.
That's what you would call a grail card, because
absolutely,
the card shouldn't have been released, which is 54. As you can see right here, there's the 54.
Yep. I had thoughts of maybe seeing if I could pick up a really low copy at the National, but I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to handle that unless I see a really good deal. But again, if it would have to be like a 1.5 or something, and not look like run over by a truck. So I just, because I'm again looking at what they're currently going for. Even when you get into a 2, now you're up to $1,700 maybe. Wow. I think at least definitely over 1,000. Even at like a 2. And I'm like, not right now. But Yeah, you never
Yeah.
know. But that would be
Dare to
my
dream.
my dream pickup would
Right.
be that 54 Bowman Ted
And
Williams.
and other advice is don't steer away from ones, especially when you're doing sets like
Oh, yeah.
this.
Right.
Yep.
There's no number.
Yeah.
The number is in your wallet. That's what you look at.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's a one. I tried to get, a collector's grade for that decade, but in the past 3 years with the boom and everything went nuts. I was like, you know what? You can find the one that doesn't look like it's been,
Right.
doesn't
Well,
look
I
like a
picked up
rag.
I picked up this again, the 53 Bowman Reese. It
Mhm.
doesn't show up too well, but it's a PSA 2.
Yeah.
But the centering wasn't bad, and again, it fit my price range. I
Right.
couldn't. I got a deal. I think I bought this and the Brett rookie from the
Mhm.
same dealer at the National.
Nice.
And now yours, yeah. Hold on there.
I noticed
Yours is a what? A
a
5?
5.
Yeah.
The centering's not
Nice.
awesome on it, but
It's almost the same as mine, but my corners are a lot more dinged and stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
But yeah, I this was a card that I wanted, and I was like, there's just prices right now. I can't afford a 5 or whatever, and 2 was like, okay, I can handle that and still
Right.
have money to spend on on other cards.
right.
And so I don't mind, twos.
So,
That 50 Barra is a 2.
Mhm.
you two
And
have any SGCs in your collection? Are you
do
all
I have any SGCs?
or Ray?
No.
I have one SGC.
And it's a shame because,
It's my Mathewson Dark Cap.
Yeah.
That's in an old SGC slab.
I
But
guess-
that's the only SGC
Yeah. I go either way.
Yeah.
I'm just
I want
having
a-
hard, like, it's like,
Oh, yeah.
and I think a lot of it, I'm not in the registry, so
Right.
it doesn't care. I don't care.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, to be honest, I like the look of SGC better, but like I bought this off of JT. Like I didn't care that it was PSA.
Mhm.
It's I got a good deal. I like the card.
It's a great card.
Yeah. So, but that's the beauty of how we all collect. It doesn't matter.
You should do a Stam Usual run, Don.
I'm trying, but there's a
Yeah.
few that are out of my price.
Well,
now.
Now, what you need? You don't have his 48 Bowman rookie, do you?
I don't, and
Okay.
it's 49 Leaf I have back here. But it's not mine.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
You're borrowing it.
Yeah.
Borrowing it. So at the Strongsville show in Cleveland, Chris from Missouri loaned this to me.
Yeah.
And he said,
here.
I want you to have it until I get my own.
Oh my God.
And it's a beater, but who cares?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but the centering
Right here, take this and put it in your collection until you get another one. I was like, wow.
Oh my God, who cares? I mean, if someone offered me a 52 Topps Mantle, they could have taped it, ripped it up, and taped it back together.
Well, have you?
I wouldn't care.
There was one. The last video I did of the.
Because this is how Chris identified his collection, so I couldn't throw it away. But I didn't want it on my display with this tape all over it. So I'm keeping it for when I give it back to him.
I
play the card like that. But I am trying to do the musical run, which to be honest isn't that hard because he didn't have that many.
Yeah, he didn't have a lot of Topps cards, only like 50.
No. And he didn't have that many Bowman either. He only had 4. He had 50,
48, 49, 52.
or 52, 53. Yeah.
53.
49. So, and I try picking up any oddball music whenever I can.
Right.
Yeah.
You mentioned the 52 Mantle. The last video I did on the top 10 vintage card sales on eBay, there was a 52 Mantle. It was unauthentic.
Mhm.
Sold for $20,000, and the top part of it was like missing.
75.
Talk about run over by a truck. It had creases everywhere. The surface was and I'm like, that is probably one of the worst conditioned 52 Mantles that I've ever seen. and it's still sold for like $20,000. I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, I couldn't.
Anyway,
I can't. I mean, wow.
It's gotta look like a baseball card to me.
yeah. It
Had to
had
resemble
missing.
a baseball card at least, you know.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, I was like, and it wasn't too long ago that you could find a real beater and maybe still have to, okay, you had to pay maybe 8 to 10,000, and okay, if you time things right, sold some cards, this or that or whatever,
Mhm.
hey, I can afford an authentic 52 Mantle. It may not look the best, but I own one. Now it's almost like, okay, if you don't have 20 grand in your pocket, no matter what the card looks like, you're not gonna. I'm like, oh my gosh. But and the thing is, they're not scarce. They're all over the place. You
Yeah,
would
it's
think
not a rare card.
the
No.
whole thing with the supply demand, I don't get it with the 52 Mantle. You would think, okay, great demand, low supply, even terrible ones. That's why they get 20,000. But you do an eBay search, you go to a card show. Oh, there's a 52 man. Oh, there's one.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
one. There's one. There's one. There's one. Like, yeah, I don't know.
It's become folklore now. That's why, you know, with the story of the dumping in the Hudson River and all this and Cy Berger, it's kind of taken a life of its own uh, for years, not just recently. I mean,
Right.
since like the 70s, you know, that card's taken a life of its own. And plus, it's Mantle. You know, it's a Yankee. It's a popular figure in history. I mean, when a card like that is worth more than his rookie card, it's, you know, and then with the Gretzky and McNow adding life to that card when, you know, it was trimmed by Bill Maestro, and, you know,
Yeah.
that card just got more and more popular. So it's taken a life of its own for sure. And
I remember my my
not a rare
local
card.
in my local card shop. He's been around for like 40 years, but at one point he had a picture taped to the register,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it was his display case, maybe in the mid 80s.
Mm-hmm.
He had 3 or 4, and these were all 52s. Now they were all raw. But I would venture to say that if all those cards in the display case were graded, they'd probably all be at least a PSA 7. He had 3 or 4 Mantles, like 2 Jackie Robinsons, a couple Eddie Matthews, some Willie May. I mean, just it was all these 52s in this
Right.
display case, and you look at it and go, "Oh my god!"
Yeah.
Like the value today,
Mm-hmm.
those were all graded. And back then in '85, he was probably asking maybe $1,000 or something like that for the
If
Mantles or
that,
this or
yeah.
something. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh
Hey,
god, you know, it's
now, was that the Wagner or was that the Mantle they owned? I thought it was the Wagner for some reason.
yeah. The Wagner
The
was the one that
Wagner,
was
yeah,
trading.
they had the
Yeah.
Tito, the Gretzky, Bruce McNall had the Wagner. It
Okay.
was in that
Yeah.
book called The
Mantle,
Card.
like, maybe I'm wrong on that.
No, you're right. It's the Bruce McNall, Wayne Gretzky had the T206 Wagner card that was
And that was
trimmed.
from what's his name, Mastro or Maestro or whatever.
Yeah, well, I'm
Ended up
sure
in
he
Britain.
trimmed a couple of those too.
Yeah.
But that card's just taken a whole life of its own, from celebrities owning it to, you know,
Right.
the folklore story. It's just gotten crazy. And like
Yeah,
John said,
'cause
it's not a rare card, you know.
and the same thing with the almost to the extent of the Honus Wagner. There are other rarer cards in terms of not just the number that's been graded, but that are known to exist. I think guess there's what, maybe 60 some Honus Wagners out there.
Mm-hmm.
Heard that, right?
There are some that are from other sets or whatever that are much more rare, but just don't have the cachet, the publicity, the history or whatever of that Honus Wagner card. Same with the 52 Mantle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the whole thing with the hobby is I like to say rarity should have a pretty big part in it, but it's also the market the player played in, you know, how many championships that player won, and he fits the mold and all that with New York, a huge, biggest market out there, won, I don't know, 9 World Series and
MVPs and triple crowns and
Right.
Even his social life, just the stories and the folklore add to it, I think, a little bit.
Right. I mean, there was better players out there than Willie Mays played in New York.
Okay, I'll take Willie Mays all day over.
Yeah, Willie Mays was way better.
Yep. Well, Ray, I think this we usually try to keep this maybe around an hour or a little over that, but we had some great conversation, and this obviously with some of the other directions we were going here could set us up maybe for another future guest appearance on the show. But we really appreciate you coming on. Great conversation about PSA Registry again. Focus whether you want to do it because you have PSA grades or just use it as Don maybe does for checklists. Those registries can perform a lot of have a lot of benefits to collectors out there.
Right.
Whether the card's in a PSA slab or not, you could help it, focus your collecting. So
and learn about some other cards. Right. Definitely.
Yeah, appreciate it, Ray. This was a lot of fun. Always.
Oh, I appreciate you guys having me on, man. Anytime I can talk about Hall of Fame and rookies and PSA, I'm there.
Yep. And so, we already have our next guest lined up, which again, I don't want people to think that we're actually putting some effort into this, but it just so happened that it worked out that the next guest is lined up for the following week. So,
right.
Yeah, cool. we promise everyone not to make this a habit. So I guess with that, then, hey, we appreciate everyone that watches, and we'll catch you next time.
Later.